The Nintendo 3DS is 10 years old. I cannot believe it. What the hell? I already did a video last year when the 3DS was discontinued, and I already explained all my thoughts and how I feel about the 3DS and stuff, so I'm not really gonna talk about all that again. I'm just gonna shorten it down here, but basically, I got my 3DS in Christmas of 2012, and at the time it was just because my DSi was about to break down, so I had no way of playing my DS games, and I don't even think I knew the 3DS was a new system. I just bought it, and there was no games out at the time for the 3DS, so I was only able to play my DS games on it, and so that's what I did for a long time. And as you can see, the bulk of my playtime with the 3DS, like thousands of hours, are just all of my old DS games. And I counted here and I'm actually shocked, but I only have 7 3DS games. And
Apparently I can't count because I actually have 9 3DS games. So yeah, sorry for that little mistake there.
Probably 17 or 18 DS games, and only 7 DS games, which is something that shocked me. But yeah, I mostly use it to play DS games, and I think that's one of the best things about the Nintendo 3DS was its backwards compatibility. It would have been better, even better, if it was backwards compatible with the Game Boy Advance as well, but oh well. But the fact that you could backwards compatible with the DS just made this absolutely incredible. It gave you access to hundreds of thousands of games. Like, the 3DS already has its own incredible library, and couple that with the DS library, you just had so many games to choose from. And most of the games themselves were absolutely incredible, you know. Super Mario 3D Land, Mario Kart 7. I actually didn't like that one, funny enough. I had a lot of problems with Mario Kart 7. I really disliked that game. New Super Mario Bros. 2, that was a pretty good game. Kid Icarus Uprising was a massive thing that came out in this. I've never played it, but it is one of the best looking, if not the best looking game I've seen for the 3DS. Absolutely incredible. And just hundreds of more. All the Pokemon games, you've Zelda Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask 3D. It's insane the amount of games they managed to push out, and how they turned the 3DS around from being a potential failure to being a moderate success. And in my eyes, I view it as the best Nintendo system ever released. The Nintendo Switch is fantastic, and it has some incredible games, and some of them are the best games Nintendo's ever released, but it's lacking several key features. It doesn't have a lot of the stuff the 3DS had, like the activity log or a street pass or basic things like themes and folders and such, and it's these little minor things that kind of keep it lower on the list. But speaking of those features, I mean, Street Pass, what a weird concept. You would go out and you would have your 3DS with you while you were walking, and you'd walk past someone else and you'd exchange Miis, and I used to bring my 3DS with me into school at the end of the year, and we'd all gather around together and play some games, and so I ended up with like 100 Miis, and it was so fun and ridiculous, crazy. It actually encouraged people to socialize and go out. Face Raiders was a weird built-in AR game they did. They tried to push AR with the system. The systems come with these AR cards. I don't think anyone used them. I don't even know if anyone knows what exactly they're supposed to do. I tried them once or twice, like a year or two ago. I didn't get it, but hey, it's a thing. But for all the strengths the 3DS had, it did have some weaknesses, some flaws that can't be overlooked. Most noticeably, the 3D, it's in the name. The 3D was a big problem with the older models. If you've owned a 3DS, you know exactly the problem. It was really badly implemented to the point where if you were not holding your head completely still and your hands completely still, if you moved even like an inch, you'd get all these kind of black lines and the image would sort of double, and it really made the 3D unplayable. In fact, with my original 3DS here, I think I only used the 3D a handful of times here and there just to see what it was like with each game. And the 3D itself wasn't even that impressive. couple that with the circle pad as well. Instead of an actual joystick, they had the circle pad. I hated it. I found this thing really cumbersome. I always used the D-pad whenever I could. I only used the circle pad whenever it was mandatory in certain games like Luigi's Mansion or Mario 3D Land, and I always found it awkward and I felt it hindered movement, but that's just me. I think I'm in the minority with that. But they did fix the 3D later in 2014 with the new Nintendo 3DS, and that had a face capture thing that kept the 3D perfect at all times regardless of how you moved. So it took them like 2 or 3 years, but they finally perfected it with that model. And as you can see, I have a Nintendo 3DS XL as well. I got this after they announced the discontinuation of it. I rushed to buy a new one because I've had this basically since it launched and it still works perfectly, but it's showing its age. I'm having some drift with the D-pad, with the circle pad, so I decided to buy a new one since they're dirt cheap and since they're probably going to become really rare in a couple of years, and I need a way to replay all my DS games. But yeah, when you look at the library of games, you know, I don't think I'm done with my 3DS anytime soon. I still play this regularly. Hell, right now I'm playing modded versions of Golden Sun and Golden Sun The Lost Age on it. So I'm still finding uses for it all these years later, and I'm gonna have many uses for it in years to come. This will easily last me about a decade or two because you get so much content out of this, so much replay value from all these games as well. I have only 7 3DS games and I've played them so many times I didn't even notice it. I mean, that to me is incredible, and it's a testament to just the quality of the games and the actual hardware itself that was released. But I'm probably, thinking about it right now, I'm probably going to keep buying DS and 3DS games for many years to come. I'm probably going to start a massive collection and get all the must-haves because I still play this to death as much as I can. I have weird periods where I'll play it and then I'll stop playing it for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and I'll play my Switch for a while and then that goes on like the back burner for a few weeks while I play this. It's kind of a back and forth, but I still hold this in high regard, and as I said, I think this is the best hardware Nintendo's ever released. As of yet, maybe in the future they'll usurp it, but as of right now, it's the best they've done in my eyes. And another reason I rushed to buy this XL is because Switch currently isn't backwards compatible with 3DS games, and there's no way to play them outside of their original hardware, and the same goes for DS games. So I think it is a must-have if you are interested in any of the games, because there's bound to be at least 1 or 2 of your favorite franchises on the 3DS. So if you're someone that's been on the fence about it over the years, now is your perfect opportunity, and it might even be your last opportunity to get one of these, because someday soon they're going to be really hard to find. So if you're thinking about it, go out there and get one for yourself. You'll be doing yourself a disservice if you don't. Again, if you've watched my previous video I did on the 3DS, or if you've watched any of the videos where I've mentioned the 3DS, I consider that and the DS almost like synonymous with each other. They're one thing because of how much I played my original games on the system. I never really fully exploited the 3DS for its features as much, since I apparently only have 7 games. Now that we're 10 years on, I think I definitely want to start revisiting all these classics before they become forgotten, or even. And I'm sure a lot of them will get ported to probably not the Switch, but the next console after the Switch maybe. But we can't see that far into the future, so in the present, here and now, it's the perfect time to get out and get some of these games. And there's definitely like a dozen or so I want to try. But yeah, I just wanted to briefly look back on the 3DS for the 10th anniversary, because there isn't a reason to talk about this anymore. As sad as it is, you know, now that it's been discontinued, now that they've stopped making games, and now that we're 10 years on, there's no reason to talk about it anymore. The Switch is Nintendo's only system at the moment, and all their eggs are in one basket for the first time ever. So It's going to be interesting times going forward. And it is sad. To me and to millions of others, it is incredibly sad to see the Nintendo 3DS go, because it's truly the end of an era. It's Nintendo's last ever dedicated handheld console, and it's the end of a legacy that began with the Game & Watch back in the 80s. And I think it ended off well. I think it definitely got a good run. They got like 9 years out of it, and they spared no expense. They really, for lack of a better word, milked it for all it's worth, and I'm pretty happy with what we've got out of it. I just wish the Switch had the activity log more than anything. Whatever about themes or photos that everyone wants, I want the activity log really badly, because it is a perfect activity log of any console ever. The first time you've ever played the game, the last time you've played the game, how many hours you've played ever, how many hours you play on average when you play it, how many times you've ever booted up the game. I mean, it doesn't get any more perfect than that, and it's kind of a shame Nintendo didn't bring that over to the Switch, but it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, those are just my quick thoughts and reflections on the Nintendo 3DS. 10 years on, it's insane. I feel really old, and I'm only 19, so imagine how older people feel about it. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Do you own a Nintendo 3DS? How do you feel about the system? Did you play it often? Do you still play it? How many games do you have? Do you mostly play DS games? What are some of your favorite things about it? I want to hear everything you have to say down in the comment section below. And yeah, with that all said, thank you all for watching, and please subscribe. Novus Corvius out.